Chapter 1. I woke in the dark, disoriented. It was near dawn, I knew that instinctively. But where? I lay in bed listening to the night sounds through the open window and heard the restless rush of waves. Was I back at the beach in Emerald Isle? But the scent that came in on the breeze smelled of woodland and greenery. Listening more closely, I understood the sound of ocean waves was only the wind tossing the boughs of the tall trees in my backyard. It was summer. The branches were heavy and the leaves rustled against each other as the trees swayed. This was Cub Creek. I was home. I touched my coverlet and smiled. I should have known where I was by the bedding alone. My thread count here was more like threadbare, and nowhere near the quality of the down quilts and fine cotton sheets back at Merrick's house. Moving my hands across the coverlet, I felt paper, then many sheets of paper, and I remembered the rest. I'd been reading Merrick Dahl's latest manuscript. I must have fallen into a restless sleep. Merrick, Davis, and Gwen had been at my house that very day. Merrick's voice echoed in my head. "Lilliane, please read this and give us feedback. We need your help." He'd said that to me, a woman who rarely read, and had never read for fun until I'd met him and become ensnared in his words. Between this story he'd written and the crazy, unexpected day I'd enjoyed with them here in my home, my normal world had been seriously disrupted, but in good and happy ways. It wasn't surprising that the unaccustomed excitement would creep in and disrupt my sleep, too. How much of the surprise visit from Merrick and Davis, then Gwen showing up to join us for dinner, plus what I'd been reading when I'd fallen asleep, had made it into my dreams. Dreams that had then transitioned into this present, half-awake, fresh-from-sleep reality. No wonder I was confused. It didn't take long to orient myself. By the moonlight streaming in through the nearby window, I could see well enough to gather up the manuscript pages scattered around me. So yes, I was home in Cub Creek, my parents' home. In fact, it had been my grandparents' home, and before that, home to earlier generations. In short, the house was old and looked like most every other two-story, white-painted, now peeling, oft-abandoned home places seen along country roads. Houses still upright and holding on against time and gravity, but barely. Yet, while this particular home place, mine, wasn't in great shape, that condition was improving. I'd earned good money working as a companion for Merrick Dahl in Emerald Isle, coastal North Carolina being a world away from my forest clearing at the end of a dirt road in rural Louisa County, Virginia. I loved my home. I also loved Emerald Isle, a place of sunshine, fresh ocean breezes, and inviting water, and I'd been invited to return there by Merrick himself. And I would, for temporary stays at least. When? I had no answer. Merrick had an aide working for him right now, though not the rather stalwart-looking aide in a nurse's uniform who'd replaced me. Apparently, she hadn't lasted long. And Merrick wasn't satisfied with his current aide either, and maybe she was leaving too. Merrick said she'd given notice and was only staying until the next replacement could be found. Davis had stated that was the reason Merrick had insisted on making the trip here. Merrick, with his own special wit, had declared they'd come to kidnap me. It was flattering to be missed, but I couldn't go back yet. For one thing, it was a 5 or 6 hour drive, not something I could undertake on a whim. Soon, though. More immediately, my friend Gwen was coming to my house this morning and bringing her camera. Our purpose was so potentially terrifying to me that I could hardly acknowledge the idea of it, but it pushed into my early morning thoughts, chasing away any hope of going back to sleep. Leaving my bed, I went down the stairs, navigating by night sight, then crossed the living room to the kitchen. My slip-on shoes were next to the kitchen door. I picked them up and shook them by habit, in case a spider or a mouse had tucked in snug for the night, then slid them onto my feet and unlocked the door. I was already wearing my amethyst key pendant, and I clutched it now as I walked through the backyard, moving toward the shed and Dad's workshop.